Hello and welcome back to Parenting Uncovered. We are Dave and Ashley Willis, and today we are going to talk about how to handle kids and video games. And you guys, we are coming at you as people who are always learning about this because, first of all, we have all 4 children who love to play video games, right? To different degrees, I would say. But also, the reason we are always keeping our finger on the pulse of this is because I feel like just when we think we understand the impact of video games or kind of the limits we should put on video games, the data is changing because there's other options like VR, which is virtual reality. There's all this information coming out. And so right out of the gate, can I go ahead and share kind of some stats on video games? I found a great website, and this comes from the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry. If you want to look up this article, it's at aacap.org. And the article is entitled Video Games and Children Playing with Violence. And they talk about how there's a lot of video games where it's just fun. Like our kids love to play Roblox, where they come up with their own avatars. They can design characters for our little kids, which are 8 and 11 right now at this recording. And those aren't violent. Those are just like different places they go and do, and it's different scenarios. But there's a lot of games that are violent. And they said, some of these are killing people or animals. The use and abuse of drugs and alcohol, these are more popular with the older kids, really teenagers, and then like young adults. Some even mimic criminal behavior, disrespect for authority and law, sexual exploitation and violence toward women, racial, sexual, or gender stereotypes, and even foul language and obscene gestures. And I've heard some parents say, well, yeah, some of that's in there, but I can put a certain setting on it. Like I remember years ago, Call of Duty was like all the rage. And I think there's all these different.
Well, and then you got stuff like, Grand Theft Auto. I'm really not even in the know of what is like trending right now, but I know like the Grand Theft Auto whole franchise had a lot of like violence,
sexual situations.
It had, sexual situations. Yeah. You were like incentivized for committing crimes, and and I think that just, I don't know, celebrating in a virtual way something that is very unhealthy in a literal way is always dangerous. It's one of the reasons why pornography is dangerous. We're going to talk about that next week.
Right.
Because it just desensitizes us, right? I mean, it does. And I'm not one of these people that like blames all society's woes on video games. No. I think they can be a lot of fun. Our kids like playing it. I grew up playing video games. But if we lose ourselves in a digital reality, and then especially when that digital reality is bent toward the violent or just the objectification of people, the dehumanization of people, whether it's through sexual situations or through just killing people for sport in a digital way, it does have an impact. I mean, it does.
It does. And I'm going to tell you actually what these people who work, in the psychiatry and mental health, fields are finding among kids, because it's pretty astonishing. And so just to kind of see where we are, it says that spending excessive time playing video games, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit, it can lead to these things. It can lead to less time socializing with friends and family, because a lot of these games are increasingly becoming less about playing alongside your friend. It's a lot of online
it's isolating.
Playing, very isolating. So this leads to poor social skills, time away from family, from schoolwork and other hobbies. They see a correlation between those who play video games excessively often have lower grades. There's less reading because they'd rather play games than read. There's less exercise. And so a lot of kids are experiencing like childhood and adolescent obesity. Also decreased sleep and poor quality sleep, because their brain, it's hard to turn that off. Especially if they have a gaming system in their room, then all they want to do is play games like all through the night. And then lastly, and this one is really concerning to me, is aggressive thoughts and behaviors.
Yeah.
Because, it's doing something to your brain. There's often like a dopamine hit from the excitement you get from playing these games. And so sometimes when it's taken away or when you have to turn it off, they can be aggressive. And so really concerning. But we do have some tips for parents. And so before we get to that, what do you want to add to that, sweetie? Because this is something that has been an ongoing conversation in our family, because we know what the stats say, but we also don't want to make it, video games completely off limits, because I do, especially during like when we moved away and also during COVID, I saw it as something that our kids were able to still interact with friends. Like, even though it's online, there is some interaction, like with Roblox, they would play with their cousins. And sometimes they would even FaceTime them while playing Roblox and be like, oh, I want to see your avatar. And, oh, what's this tip you have to do this one, part of the game? How do you get into this part of the game? Or, and our kids have played like Mario. I mean, they love, going all the way back to, Nintendo's Mario. And so I don't think that they're all bad. I had to learn, because I used to think they were all bad.
She did.
I really did. I used to really think that.
She had a lot of prejudice against any form of video game, which is part of the reason why I don't really play, is because
you play with our kids sometimes.
I want her to not be repulsed by me. And
I don't find it repulsive.
Every now and then I'll jump on. She did. She really did. But I will say, I've seen, so when I was growing up, video games didn't have the tech that they have now. There was no internet, really. The game technology, the way that it's developed, it really is, it's amazing. I was hooked on really simple Super Mario games and different things back in the day. But even that, I had friends in college that nearly failed out of school because they were up all night playing Mario Kart.
Yeah,
just sitting in the dorm lobby playing games like that. So anything that gets out of balance can quickly just make things fall apart. And so if you have the kind of personality where you don't have good natural limiters, video games is one of those areas, especially for men, it seems like, especially for young men and men of all ages, I suppose.
And increasingly women.
Women, where
girls and women who love to play it.
It's easy to just lose ourselves in that reality, or in that game. And I think some of it is a hiding from actual reality. It goes from just being a hobby or a diversion or something that you enjoy to no, I get this world, I get this digital world, and I want to spend as much time here as possible because here I feel like I'm thriving, I'm winning, and out in the regular world, I feel like I'm not. I don't understand the rules in the regular world. It's harder, I don't like it, so I'm going to just hide in this digital world. And that, for me, is one of the biggest dangers of it. Yeah. It's not even just the violent and the sexualized games, but any game, even a game that seems innocent, if it pulls you in and you want to live in that digital space and you're trading a virtual reality for an actual reality, it cuts you off from relationships. It makes it harder for you to engage with real human beings in real settings. And we're losing out. I think kids are losing out on some very basic life skills because their head is in a screen so much that they don't know how to interact without a screen. They don't know how to exist without a screen. And so one of our jobs of parents in this digital age is, helping kids be able to leverage technology because it's going to help them with their job. It's going to be part of their life, whether we like it or not. Technology is going to be a big part of all of our lives. But helping them find limits to realize that technology isn't everything. People are still most important.
Yes.
Relationships, your relationship with God and with people. And you can't automate all that. You can't put all that just digitally. You have to be able to interact face to face. You have to be able to put the phone down and be okay and not be fidgety and twitchy. You got to be able to enjoy life without a screen.
It's so true. And I know that sounds simple enough, right? But so many of us, even as adults, struggle with this. Maybe it's not even a gaming system. Maybe it is. But I think with these things right here that we love, that can be a great tool, but it's a poor master, and we really have to keep it in its proper place. And I think it really, my probably first piece of advice with this, from learning through trial and error, and a lot more than from error than through success, right, is I think we have to really, I think we need to prolong the introduction of video games. Not that it's just the devil and you need to stay away from it, but I think that there's a lot of neuroscience behind this. The more that we can prolong screens from our kids, the better their brains are.
Yeah. And those formative years.
Early formative years, just popping them. Sometimes it's easy to just put them in front of a screen. And I'm not saying back in the day when we were raising our kids, there was, what was it called? Baby Mozart or something, or what did they call that?
Baby Einstein.
Or Baby Einstein, Baby Genius stuff. And we even did sign language videos, baby sign language videos. And we would limit it to 20 minutes a day or something when they're real little. And I know that even nowadays, I think they're saying don't even let them be in front of any screen for as long as possible. And we tend to be more kind of, listen, I don't think having a little program for your young kid is going to hurt them. But I think if it constantly becomes the thing that we push them in front of and let them get on the iPad because we want a moment. And believe me, I get that sentiment. I get just wanting a moment. But if it becomes too much and then they're crying for the iPad, because that's how it starts, their iPads. I see little kids with iPads or Kindles or whatever the little contraption is all the time. Like I get every now and then, doing that. And maybe it's an educational game. That's great. There are some great educational games. But I think if it's constantly like, no, you just go on a screen, it's really teaching them the wrong thing because it can be highly addictive.
Oh, sure.
And I mean, there's been times with our kids where we've always limited video games. Like it's never been a free for all, like do it whenever you want. From the time they start playing it, which usually starts with, oh goodness, I think it was leapfrog devices, because we love how they teach the alphabet and first words, and it's a lot of educational things, but it's still a digital device. And we had like a little leapfrog, little activity pad, I think is what it was. But we still found very quickly, even at like 4 years old, that we had to limit that. And so it started off, we limited it to like a certain amount per day. If you did all the things you're supposed to do, you get this amount of time on your little leapfrog pad. And then, in elementary school, we found that it was easier just to say, no video games until the weekend, and you get this amount of time on the weekend to play your video games as long as you've done all the things you're supposed to do at home and all your things you're supposed to do at school. And that's really worked. That's kind of where we are right now with our younger two, is they don't get video games until the weekend. Now, if they did really well on their report card, you guys heard us say, I believe it was last week or the week before, that we pay our kids in high school for their grades. We do not pay our elementary schoolers or middle schoolers for good grades, but we do give them a bonus gaming time.
Yeah, which is all the currency they care about.
It's gold to them. Like to be able to play games on a Tuesday.
Oh yeah.
They're like, oh my gosh, So that's been helpful, and it's something that they look forward to. But there's a lot of weekends where we have a lot of activities, and so maybe their game time if we didn't have a lot of activities one weekend, they get a lot of game time, more than maybe the weekends where we have a lot of activity. And we're very quick to tell them, like, listen, being outside and being with friends and going somewhere with your family or whatever, way more fun than a video game.
Way more fun.
And way more important to do. Because we're engaging in relationship. And I think it's just, anytime we see, especially Chandler, I feel like he's our 6th grader and he's so good at games. He's an excellent student, very studious, gets it done. He's our one that's going to be an Eagle Scout. He's in Scouts right now working through his things.
Which has been great for him because he's so drawn to screens. To be engaged in something that is screenless, essentially. You're doing outdoor stuff, you're working toward projects with your hands, building relationships. It's been great for him. It has, and it gives him other things to be motivated to do. And school's pretty easy for Chandler right now. So it's been, he doesn't have a lot of homework. He's able to get stuff done pretty quickly. And having these scouting projects has been good. And he's an achiever by nature, so he's really working through that list. But there's been times, has there not, sweetie, especially on vacation weeks where they get a little more time than usual, where we'll have to shut it down because I'm just noticing those impulsive behaviors and where it's hard for him to walk away. And I remind him, I will literally say, this is addictive behavior, And I'm like, can you see how upset this is making you? This little screen, his isn't little usually. I mean, it's usually, he's working on his little computer. He has like a laptop game. It's usually Roblox. And I'm like, this screen is making you feel this way. I'm like, do you see the correlation here? And so I try to reason with it. I'm like, we need to scale back even more on the games. Yeah.
And so it's a constant conversation, and we're monitoring and adjusting quite a bit, right, sweetie?
Monitor and adjust.
Yes.
You've heard us use that language
live by
in marriage,
yes.
parenting, really, I think all parts of life. We didn't come up with that, but heard someone say that, and we're like, yeah, that resonates. We need to always be monitoring and adjusting, know what's going on,
right.
Know the condition of things. In the Proverbs, it says, know the condition of your flocks, talking to shepherds. Yep. Right? You got to know. If you're taking care of these sheep, you got to know their condition. Are any of them sick? Any of them lost? Any of them not eating enough? You got to know the condition, and you have to adjust. And in parenting, it's the ultimate form of shepherding. You got to know the condition of your kids. What are they into? What are they drawn to? What are they thinking about? And if everybody's just retreating to their own screen all the time, then we're missing out on the engagement. We're missing out on those parenting moments. And really, we're opening up our kids to a world where they could be exposed to a lot we don't want them to be exposed to. And we'll continue that part of the conversation next week with the pornography discussion specifically, which is a huge issue. Kids are being exposed to that earlier and earlier. Usually they're not even looking for it. It finds them. And we'll talk about that next week.
Yeah.
Not to scare you, not to be alarmist, but just we need to know as parents what's out there and what our kids are being exposed to and how to protect them.
Yeah.
But coming back to this video game thing, I think that it's going to look different, not only in every family, but maybe even for every kid, because each child is different. Each of our kids have been drawn to different levels to the video games. And you're gonna have to, what works in one season might not even work in another. So monitor and adjust, change rules as you need to. And I just hope that, like all these episodes, we're just trying to help you have new thoughts and new conversations that could help.
That's right. And I would say a few things that have worked for us, and we've already shared a couple, but I would add to it by saying we really decided long ago to not let our kids have TVs in their rooms. I feel like that's been a really good thing because, we talked about how extra gaming decreases reading just
they can
because
have
they're going to
books,
pick that.
no TVs.
Right, exactly. And they read at night. Like that's when they read.
Which is great.
And we're like, we'll go to the library, we'll go on Amazon, we'll get you books, and so that's been a really good thing. So because they don't have TVs, they also don't have gaming systems in their room. All of our gaming systems are out in the open. Even Chandler's little laptop is out in our family room. And because we want it to be open to where we can hear it, we can see it. We also have filtering software, which we'll talk about next week, that filters out any kind of like pornographic or it even does stuff like having to do with violence, having to do with alcohol and drugs. I'll give a real quick plug to this and we'll talk about it more next week, but we like the filtering system Custodio with a Q, the Custodio app. We found it very easy to use. There's another one called Bark that I know a lot of people have success with, and there's one called Covenant Eyes. But it'll block anything that is violent, that is sexual, that is alcohol and drugs, or even mature, of a certain level. Yeah. And they'll report it to you, but also block it from your kids. And it leads to a good conversation. But I wanted to come back to this article by, again, it's called the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychology. They have some great tips on here at their website, aacap.org. And some of their suggestions for parents are to avoid video games in preschool age children, which we kind of already talked about. But also, this is a really good thing to remember, is that we need to check the ESRB ratings to select appropriate games. Because sometimes, just like with movies as parents, they might have a rating, but we don't understand the nuance of what is within that rating. Because to be honest with you, some PG things are pretty, they don't have a whole lot in them. They're PG because of one word. And it may not even be like a cuss word, but it's just PG because of a situation. Whereas other PG movies might have these other things that we wish we had known about. And there's so many great websites out there where you can check these kind of ratings. One that we go to a lot is called Common Sense Media. And I think it's just .com. And they rate movies, they rate books, and they rate games.
Yeah.
And not only that, but they tell you all the different situations and why they gave this rating, like how many times they say the word stupid, or you know what I'm saying? It could be, or if there's any kind of racy situations. And another great website we would recommend is from Focus on the Family, and that website is called pluggedin.com. They also kind of tell you what's in different things that you can go through as a parent and give it ratings. And it's specifically from a Christian perspective, so you have that faith component as well. Whereas Common Sense, I don't think it's necessarily Christian, but it's honest. They just tell you every little thing
practical.
That's in there.
It lets you know exactly.
It does.
So you're not surprised,
no,
by a game, a movie. Sometimes you're taking your kids to a movie and there's some scene that just really stands out and surprises you. Whoa, wasn't expecting that.
Right.
I wish I'd have known that was coming.
We would have never gone to this, or we would have never let him play this game.
Common Sense Media is a great resource to
it's been really
let
good.
you know what's happening.
Another suggestion they have is playing video games with your children to share the experience and discuss the game's content. I love this one because I know years ago, you and Chandler, again, our 6th grader, I think this was when he was probably 8, you guys beat the game Splatoon together. Do you remember that? And it was
awesome.
So fun.
It was like a bonding moment.
It was very bonding.
Or when we found this video game place that had all these old vintage games, and I was playing the old Street Fighter games with the boys and stuff that I grew up playing.
Yeah.
And just showing them, and they instantly were better than me somehow.
I even played Street Fighter with them. It was really fun.
I know.
I really enjoyed it.
So it can be a bonding thing. We're not saying video games are evil. We've had fun and even bonding moments with the kids over it.
Yeah. Another suggestion they have, and this is going to be a theme throughout Parenting Uncovered, is pay attention to your own gaming habits, because we are modeling what's appropriate
and social media
for
habits.
them. And social media, right.
And just being online in general.
Exactly. And even screens, because I love just having the TV on, and I'm challenged sometimes because I grew up with the TV in my room, and I would just sometimes be watching it, but sometimes just in the background, that sometimes it'll feel weird not having that noise. And you've really challenged me on this and been like, listen, we need to be okay with silence.
Yes.
And, with our kids there, it's rarely silent, obviously, but it's good to have quiet moments in your day.
I crave it.
And I think it's good for kids to have quiet moments, to just not have to be stimulated all the time. I think another one, they said other things that we already suggested is in this article, but I think here's one more I want to add is monitoring online interactions and warning children about potential dangers of internet contacts and playing games online. This is a huge one that with our older boys, I remember when Discord, which is an app where gamers kind of go back and forth, when that came on the scene, I remember when it happened. And I just told our boys, if you're going to be part of this, we have to have access to it as well. And I would go occasionally and check the Discord conversations. And I would always tell the kids, and you would too, listen, that person who's claiming to be 12 is probably 45 and might be trying to lure you in.
Yeah.
You never tell your real name. You never tell where you live. You never give personal information. Like, you don't know who's on the other side of that screen. And they'd always be like, Mom, you tell us this all the time. And I'm like, because you can't forget it. Like, it's so easy to get comfortable and just think, well, they're my friend. I play them all the time on Roblox. Like, they're nice, but you don't know. You really don't know what you're going to get. And there's been whole gaming systems shut down because people have found loopholes to get in and lure kids. And so I'm not trying to be an alarmist, but it is a real thing. Like, this does happen. They've had, FBI sting operations they've shown on, different TV shows. So, I mean, it does happen. So just be really, I think the main thing is we need to be aware of where they're going online. We need to have the filtering systems and keep that conversation going.
So good. Guys, it's been a great conversation, but we never end an episode without a dad joke from Dave and a fascinating fact from the lovely Ashley. So you want to go first?
You go first, because there's so many to pick from this, so I'm trying to still pick it out.
All right, let me try to do a video game tie-in. All right. Why does breaking your thumbs both make it hard to play video games and also make it likely that you'll have anxiety?
I don't know. Why?
Because you can't get a grip on things.
Oh, that was good. And perfect timing. I love it.
There you go.
Can't get a grip on things. I love it. All right. Again, I'm going to share two. Oh, they're kind of all related. Fascinating facts, okay? And this, again, is from factretriever.com. You guys may have heard of the term soccer mom or helicopter mom, which there can be a soccer dad and helicopter dad, right? Am I right? I mean, this can happen. But these gained traction in the 1990s as moms, in particular, would sign up their kids for as many extracurriculars as possible. That's where you get those terms, soccer mom and helicopter mom. And of course, helicopter mom,
you're hovering.
You're hovering. Like, you're kind of, never giving your kid any space there, okay? Involved in every little facet of their life, when they're older and probably should have some things independently. But there's this other term that I've never heard before, and maybe you guys have heard of this, but it's called the lawnmower parent, okay? Or the lawnmower parenting style. Have you heard of this?
No.
Okay, I haven't either. But it's defined as going to whatever lengths are necessary to mow down adversity, struggle, or failure for the child. So never allowing your kids to fail. Have you heard of that? I'd never.
No, that's a new one. Lawnmower parent.
So you don't want to be those things, like soccer mom. To me, soccer mom is kind of sweet.
Yeah,
like,
to the games
you're supporting
and stuff.
your kids' activities. I am a soccer mom right now because Chatham's in soccer, I guess. So but our kids aren't in as many extracurriculars.
Now we let them do one thing at a time.
One thing each season. Yeah. So one like sport. They get to pick. And they can be in like a school club that meets after school and like one sport outside of the home or outside of school or home, where we have to drive and all that kind of stuff. But I thought that was neat. Lawnmower parenting.
You learn something new. I always learn something new with you. Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Do us a favor, connect with us on Instagram. We're at Dave and Ashley Willis. We love your suggestions for episode topics. We would love your dad jokes, your fascinating facts.
Questions.
Or any questions that you got. It's just great to connect with you over there in real time. If you're not already, also check out our Naked Marriage podcast. Which is the original podcast we've been doing for years. We have a lot of fun with that as well. So if you're not subscribed to that one, subscribe there and here, of course, and keep up the great work you're doing, growing to be a better parent. We're on this journey with you. God bless. We'll see you next time.